active jungle spell.
Correct. So we'll see how that pans out. We are in the loading screen for, of course, Velocity taking on Dignitas. This is the third game of the day. On the blue side, Velocity, this will be the third time they're playing against Dignitas. Second time.
Third?
It is third time. Yes, third time. They've lost twice before. And Dignitas, of course, on the red side, looking to go 3-0 the split. Right now, though, we do see the two teams starting off. We've seen very passive starts from both of the previous games, albeit both teams have all four teams have sort of invaded to get very deep early vision.
And I wouldn't be too surprised if we saw something similar this game as well. Thresh is always the threat at level 1 for these teams. His hook is almost undodgeable, and Crumbs found them right there because he could see his Duskbringer path after he threw it in on Velocity and saw where they decided to move afterwards. So he knows there were Velocity people in that brush, and he checks them again.
Yeah, he's playing with fire at the moment, though. He is sitting alone in the river. If Velocity did land any form of CC, Crumbs may be in trouble, and he is going to keep himself patient. Right now, defensive starts from both teams. No one actually invading or getting any form of vision in their opponent's jungle.
No shallow wards for both teams, so very conservative plays early, and Crumbs sees a lot of people. He's got to get out of there.
Yeah, he realized that. You can actually see from the positioning of Echo, they were toying with the idea of making an aggressive play, but it didn't work out for them. 1 minute 20 on the clock. This is the go sign for Velocity. They gear up the speed, and they start moving towards their enemy blue buff.
And Dignitas has wards directly where Velocity would be going, so they'll know if Velocity sticks around or not here, and it makes Crumbs' decision a little bit more crucial. They see Velocity peels out, Crumbs is going to go back where they saw the ward, and now they have to worry about potential smite steals, but I don't think they're really going to lose much other than knowledge of where Crumbs started.
Yeah, at this point in time, you actually see the entirety of Velocity backing away. That was a fairly risky play, all five of them sticking together to get a ward on something that they're not even looking like they're going to challenge right now.
The only thing this gives them is knowledge in the lane of exactly where Crumbs started, but at the same time, just with how late they pulled back their invade, Dignitas knows that Shen started at red buff as well, even if Dignitas doesn't have the ward coverage in that area.
So we'll see who can make use of that information better. They're both fully aware of it, and we're also going to see a straight lane matchup. This is the first of the day as well, with both dual lanes going head-to-head from the get-go.
We've been seeing it actually a fair bit today, because especially the first game as well had it with the Jin Zhao. Sure, it wasn't an AD carry
they
going
went top
heads
lane,
up,
they went top lane.
But it was definitely a matchup and a battle.
Matchup and a battle indeed. Chris Renekton in that top lane, he's facing off against Kennen, and it's definitely a matchup that is going to be a little difficult for him. The melee of Renekton at these early levels, he's susceptible to so much harass and free poke.
He's got to be real careful, and I wonder if NKink's going to be able to make a gank come up top. Because the junglers started on the same side of the jungle, they could potentially meet in top lane if Chris wants to make an aggressive play, or if Kiwi Kid starts bullying him.
Well, we do see Kiwi Kid, he's not actually spending too much time focusing in this mid lane, however. It was, of course, Twisted Fate taking on Rise, and Rise is going to have a little bit of difficulty in these early stages. Not the best at farming. We do see Crumbs showing his face in this top lane.
And no Shen to counter, so it's really just Crumbs trying to assist a bit. Not going to burn anything, but maybe more. Wow, they changed some CC.
The stun lands, the fear throws him backwards. Dignitas up, one last auto attack. That's going to be enough. First blood in conjunction with the red buff, and that was something neither of us were expecting.
That CC change surprised Chris a huge amount, because he was waiting to slice or dice away and still had his flash. If Chris wanted to flash out of that, he could have, but he got greedy trying to save his cooldown, and because Kiwi Kid and Crumbs chained the stun with the fear, they were able to pick up a surprising kill.
Yeah, and that fear as well, just throwing them off to the side 90 degrees, managing to keep him in place long enough for that last auto attack of Kiwi Kid to throw down and get the damage out. Scar and Echo trading a bit of damage in this mid lane. They're staying even on CS, but with that first blood picked up on Nocturne, it's definitely a help.
Oh, Evaniscus lands a hook on Cutie Pie and tries to make something happen, but Tristana's level 3 was not willing to dive in.
Now they do trade ignites on one another, both Sona and Thresh, burning those abilities, but the difference is it's Maple Street with the HP, whereas on the other side, it's Patoy with the HP.
And there's no exhaust in that lane. Very frequently, you'll see the supports bring exhaust instead of ignite, so they got a little bit over-aggressive there, and it could lead to some more action in that bottom lane.
There's no exhaust in this entire game if we look down the summoner spells of both teams. 2 ignites, 2 barriers apiece, so very interesting to see that, especially when you're coming up against a Tristana and a Renekton, who could be very effective against.
There's a couple things that exhaust is quite potent against, but for these guys, they're just going for the lane kills, and they don't necessarily see that big of a melee hyper carry threat, but if I have a Nocturne diving in, I'm going to want an Exhaust. They decided for the kill in lane because they want to get Maple Street farm.
So we'll see how well this pans out for them. The first one to recall in this bottom lane was I'm a Cutie Pie, because of course he did take all of that damage from the bottom lane. He's returned with a long sword, a couple of pots, and he's falling a little bit of CS behind, but he's got a massive wave to play with.
And we have to remember, Velocity had access to those double golems at the start of the game, and that's giving them a bit of an XP advantage. I think they took the double golems. I could be wrong on that. I was kind of paying attention to other things, but that's one of the reasons you don't see people match straight up against each other in these bottom lanes that frequently.
So I'm just going to see if that experience of those levels play into their favor. At the very least, with that earlier CS advantage, Maple Street's actually coming back with some sustain, which is sorely needed. He's got no regeneration, because Thresh, other than blocking damage, isn't going to give him HP back like Patoy Sona will.
Got to be able to withstand some of that Patoy poke, but the thing that Chris has to deal with now is this lane against Kiwi Kid. He knows he's still got his flash up, but he's just so far behind after giving up that kill, all defensive items, whereas Kiwi Kid's been able to go double offensive. Chris can't necessarily get close to minions.
It's one of the things that'll play, or one of the things that will play into Chris's favor a little bit later, is as he does get some more levels and some more farm, maybe working towards a Hex Drinker, which would work fantastically against Ryze and Kennen. It'll help him, but the question is, how well can Kiwi Kid keep him under control?
I think the Hex Drinker is definitely something that's happening, but here in the mid lane, Scar finally fighting back a little bit on Echo. The way that mid lane matchup plays out is TF tries to shove Ryze, and then Ryze tries to kill TF. And finally Scar almost tried to kill TF, and it keeps the farm even.
And you have to give props to Scar right now, because he's not losing out on any of the CS. He's been sitting at his tower for the majority of this matchup, and even on that previous engagement, he's actually got a CS advantage.
I think something that happened as well is when Echo was shoving up, he got scared of Crumbs, because they didn't have the most prolific ward coverage around their rivers, and he couldn't stay too far up to CS, so as he was shoving, Echo was missing a few, and Scar was getting them back at the turret.
Very importantly, we've just seen a flash of Crumbs. He is level 6 right now, whereas NK Inc. is still only level 5, but he is on the double golem, so we will most likely see that Stand United available very soon. He's about a third of the way through the level, so there's this very small window of opportunity if Crumbs is able to pick a fight.
Crumbs goes for Echo. He can spell shield that card, does not.
Unfortunately, Spell Shield doesn't even get procced. That Shroud of Darkness not available as Chris gets locked up by the little hamster.
Yeah, Kiwi Kid's going to continue to do this to Chris because he knows that first kill assist is just giving him the lead and edge in that lane, double his score in minions right now.
That is a massive advantage right now. The one thing that does help Chris out a little bit is that wave is now up against his tower, so if he's able to successfully freeze it, he should be able to pick up some additional CS and start to close that gap, assuming Kiwi Kid lets him, because he's going to be able to attack him from range a little bit north of that tower.
I think that's one of the reasons Kiwi Kid's up 55 or 56 to 26 is because he's denying so well at the turret, just with really smart auto attacks. But this whole game is still trending Dignitas' way. We look at all the lanes individually, and Maple Street's the only one really doing what he should be doing, or doing better than he should be doing, because Tristana's level 5 is not as good as Graves level 5, and he's still up in minions.
Yeah, especially when you think about the laning phase of a Thresh Tristana lane against a Graves Sona. You've got a passive support in Sona and the aggressive support in Thresh, but Evaniscus' hooks haven't really been as impactful as they maybe wanted.
There was the one he landed early at the turret, which burned both ignites, and then since then, he's mainly using it as a deterrent for Dignitas to not get close.
In terms of CS, I'm a Cutie Pie has now hit level 6, 67 CS on the board, and when you do get a Graves to level 6, the burst combo of a potential crescendo buckshot collateral damage is very, very scary.
And we could see a lot of action happening very shortly.
Paranoia's down, they've dived onto Chris. Duskbringer is up as well, he's going to continue the chase. Stand United gets put on top of him, 200 HP. Shen will arrive, that's a double taunt, but it's not quick enough to save Chris. The Crocodile's been turned into a pair of shoes. They do trade kills back and forth 1-for-1 though.
And that was just all the globals getting used at once. That's why I was saying we were going to see some action. It just happened before I was ready to finish explaining it, because as soon as Crumbs went up there, you recognized that NK Inc. was going to match his Stand United as planned in Champ Select, and then because the fight was going to be long, since it's a bunch of tanks fighting up there, Echo would come in as well. It works out in a 1-for-1, but because it was a 3 versus 2 fight, Dignitas wins that exchange.
So in terms of this, the minutes that are now playing out, Dignitas have got this window of opportunity. There's no Destiny available. There's no Stand United available. They're playing very aggressive in this mid lane.
And this is the price that Echo has to pay for going to get that kill in the top lane. They trade top for mid turret, but that trade is still better for Dignitas because you get more for a mid turret than a top one. They want a crescendo.
In the bottom lane, that's a flash crescendo. It locks up Evelynn. Buckshot is there. One more auto attack. It's actually stolen away from Patoy. Maple Street rocket jumps forward. Here comes Skara. A flash from Maple Street. Room Prison is down. Overload goes up. Barriers popped. One more overload. Cutie Pie is looking for it. And the smoke screen manages to pick that one up. He gets away with his life. And well played, Cutie Pie.
He got some style points for that one, finishing with essentially utility vision skill and walking away with that. You knew that Patoy was going to be flying in there for the crescendo, and Maple Street really tried for the kill, but because Velocity had lost control of that middle turret, they could not track Skara's movements, and that's why it turned into a bad situation for Velocity.
So well played by them. Skara doing well to roam, being able to at least counter some of the global pressure by simply walking to the lane, and if we can keep that up, thanks to those towers going down, or thanks to positional play, it will keep them in this driving seat. They've got 1,500 gold advantage right now. Things are looking pretty good for Dignitas. It's a slower lead, but it's one that they definitely have.
I think things are actually looking better than the gold lead would tell us. Only because Skara on Rise, if he has a good early mid game, usually takes over games. I remember playing a lot of Rise with him, and if he ever got going, you just win. His Rise is actually incredibly potent in team fights, and he's getting there right now.
So one of the things that I've just noticed, which is very interesting as far as itemization is concerned, Echo has picked himself up a Boots of Swiftness as his first one, which is a bit strange.
That's an old school TF item. Back when TF would always rush Lich's Bane, you move a little bit faster on ganks and allows you to get some more, essentially, range on your gold card when you're ganking, if you think of it that way. Very old school build, and he's actually using that to try to stay out of range of Skara on Rise because he knows he can't trade him straight up.
It's one thing that he's going to try rely on his teammates then because he's foregoing some of that damage. Right now, Dignitas, they've grouped up. They had the mid tower down. They've got a numbers advantage, and this is going to be a dragon for them.
NK might try to go and steal this, but his smite's down, so even with the ward, it's just prolonged conclusion. This is another one of these things for Dignitas that I think they just took because they'd set up the advantages previously with the mid turret being down, with the couple kills Cutie Pie and Patoy had picked up, without even having to burn summoner spells on Cutie Pie or Skara, and they just knew they could go get that dragon.
So picked it up for free. They've got their opponents have got a fair amount of vision on their side of the jungle. If you look at all of those wards, the Tri-Bush is warded, the opposite of the Red Bush. You can see Velocity are a little bit scared of being invaded because they don't have that vision or that control of the middle of the map.
And we got to remember, the bottom lane gank that killed Maple Street came through that litter of wards, saying, yeah, we got to worry about Scar roaming down this way because the mid turret's gone. They can't control Scar's roam, so they're having to ward against it, which is costing them a lot of money.
In terms of itemization, a couple of big items have been picked up. Spirit of the Ancient Golden Air for Nocturne and a Bloodthirster already completed for Cutie Pie. So he's going to start stacking that up and getting his burst combo as high as possible.
And Cutie Pie plays more Graves than almost anyone in the LCS, so he knows that that Bloodthirster is what you do on Graves. Graves has so many attack damage ratios on his spells that oftentimes Bloodthirster just makes him fly off in the mid game and just go crazy, which is specifically when Maple Street will be weakest on Tristana. So really trying to abuse a lull in Maple Street's power curve here, Cutie Pie is doing with that Bloodthirster Graves.
You just noticed Kiwi Kid putting a very good ward there on the blue buff, so trying to set up at least the opportunity for steal. The globals are now available again for Velocity. Death Sentence goes out, and Cutie Pie
trying to bait for Nocturne.
Gently sidesteps it. Paranoia is there in the background. Maple Street and Evaniscus, they're not taking the bait this time.
Cutie Pie might have been better served not sidestepping that Death Sentence, because that would have at least pulled Evaniscus in and made it so he couldn't Lantern Maple Street out. But Crumb's not done yet. He's still looking for something, but walking through ward.
So he's been visioned up. If he does decide to dive in, it's a quick one. There's Paranoia. Crescendo is down. Stand Unite is being channeled. It's not going to be enough time for Shen to join the party. He's going to walk to the lane. A kill picked up. That's the second of the game for Patoy.
So clever. Patoy got hit by the hook that time, and that's what pulled Velocity in for the fight.
Crumbs gets taunted up. He's taken some turret damage. He's going to be able to get away. Cutie Pie's thinking about picking an engagement, but he doesn't have his collateral damage, and Skara was a little too late to join that party.
Yeah, this time when he ran down, Velocity recognized he was coming, but Velocity needs to get some turrets back for all this roam. In fact, Echo's going top, trying to get Kiwi Kid.
And Kiwi Kid with a very good flash. Now we do see the Twin Ghosts is out. There's the slow down. Slicing Maelstrom is up. Kiwi Kid is the first to get stunned. He manages to stun Echo in reply. Lightning Rush should be up relatively soon. Another gold card lands. That's going to be enough. The slice and dice into Cole the Meek, and Chris picks up a kill.
It's the speed TF coming in. Boots of Swiftness and the Twin Shadows. The only reason he was able to run down Kiwi Kid and get that kill. So they didn't get the pressure mid lane that they so sorely needed, but they did get a kill onto Kiwi Kid. for Chris, which may be even more important.
Yeah, at this point in time, especially on a champion that's 35 CS behind his opponent, just trying to balance out some of those numbers. Dignitas realizing now that they have a power position, they try to invade the blue buff. Chris is going to trade some gentle love taps there with Skara, and it does look like this blue is going to be stolen away. So a tower down, a blue buff down, and 3 kills down. Velocity are falling behind.
And the gold still looks okay. 3,000 gold at 15 minutes is a very surmountable lead. I want to see when Chris finishes up some of these items. He didn't go for the Hex Drinker. He's still looking to go for that Sunfire Cape. And considering he was down 55 to 25 in that lane, being down the same amount some 10 minutes later means Chris has been laning very well against Kiwi Kid after that early game disaster.
Yeah, so he's been able to at least mitigate that early game damage. The one thing that does, it is quite impressive for Dignitas at least, is they've got this gold advantage, even though their opponent has a Twisted Fate in their team. So the TF passive, not even being affected just yet, but the longer the game goes, the more impactful that of course will be.
Yeah, the more minions you get, the more gold you get from that 2 gold per hit for Twisted Fate. And Echo has done, even though he's 1-0-1, I have to say he's allowed Skara a lot more freedom than he necessarily needed to give him. The ganks that Echo's pulled off top lane have always opened up holes in Velocity's defense for Skara to go in and exploit. So maybe once again, since his turret is down, Echo's having a bit of trouble farming, and it's letting Dignitas roam around where they want.
It's definitely just a matter of Dignitas dictating the pace right now. They're simply roaming and pushing anywhere and everywhere without really replying. I guess, you know, you can rely on Twisted Fate to be the proactive player and make a gank happen. But with that Shen and the way they've been using the Destiny and the Stand United, it's been very much reactionary up until this point.
Yeah, a lot of times it's where's Crumbs going? Okay, let's use both to try and counter him. Instead of Velocity dictating to Dignitas, making Crumbs use his paranoia to stop, and then still having something left to make a play with. That's how Velocity needs to... They have to get themselves in that position if they want to come back in this game.
So the cooldowns are available, and you know, with the fact that there are a couple towers down and Dignitas is sort of freely roaming around the map now, there's ample opportunity to actually make a Destiny play, come in behind Skara, you know, between him and his tower, get the Stand United down on top of you, and maybe try stick it to him if it's possible.
And Skara really just stacking up that tier. There's no threat on him. 145 to 145. If we look at all the lanes aside from the top, these guys are farming very close to each other. I actually have to say NK Inc.'s 88 farm on Shen, not going for a Spirit Stone, any of that stuff, making it to the point where he could get a Sunfire Cape, is really just telling me he's trying to rush to the split push point in this match.
So he wants to try to control the map. If you can control the map, you can dictate the pace. Chris has gone in 1v3. There's the Stand United. Shen is about to join the party. Destiny's now been used as well. Slicing Maelstrom is down. Chris is very, very low. Kiwi Kid dropping HP as well. Now we see the first person to back away from the fight. In actual fact, Kiwi Kid is the first to die. NK Inc. is now backing away as Evelynn is going to try to get one auto attack down. And Skull and Meek will close it out. Chris securing himself a second kill of the game. He now has double buffs. A very good flame knocks Skara backwards, but Cutie Pie is joining the party. Collateral damage is down. The crescendo locks up NK Inc. Patoy's trying to pick that kill up. Up in the top lane, Evelynn has been dropped. Messy all over, and everyone died.
That was nuts for everyone involved. That's what Velocity had to do, though. They aggressively and proactively used their ultimates, and it made Crumbs use them in reaction to them. I feel like Velocity won that engagement because not only did they trade kills, they allowed Maple Street, the guy who generally has been relied upon to carry them, to get some farm in the bottom and take a turret.
So the problem is now that Dignitas hasn't stopped the pressure. They've still got 2 members bashing away on this inner turret. Echo's thinking about getting involved, and here comes NK Inc. from the side. Gold card is down. Cutie Pie takes a lot of damage. The slow is out. NK Inc. is probably going to wait for the taunt. Locks him up. Gold card's down. This is going to be a fairly easy kill onto Cutie Pie. Renekton actually closes out, and that is a pretty good pickup.
They got the double buffs back, and they might continue to chase. If they get oracles too, this is huge.
They stack the stuns one after the other. Flash comes out. Echo carries on chasing. Stack deck comes up, and Sona drops like a sack of potatoes.
Huge plays from Velocity all around. Yes, Dignitas will get the dragon off of that, but this is one of those situations where it's completely worth it, because consider the oracles, 400 gold that Patoy spent, and the kill sprees that were ended on both of them. Absolutely great for Velocity.
In addition to defending the tower and getting the double buffs back, it's a great position to be in. Evelynn and Chris, the front line there in that engagement, trying to land something onto Kiwi Kid. But unfortunately, that death sentence did go a little wide.
And having 2 Sunfire Capes here for Velocity will be key in prolonged team fights. If Velocity can get Shen and Renekton to not die to the initial burst from Dignitas, they're going to outlast Dig in some sustained cases for these team fights. Graves is all very up front in damage, so if Velocity can get the long fights, they'll be doing good.
In terms of magic resistance, though, they're still sorely lacking on the side of Velocity Esports. There's no Aegis in sight, actually, for either team right now. And when you're coming up against a Ryze and a Kennen, it's definitely something you'd like to be investing in.
And one reason there's no Aegis is there's not big team fights going on. With all the globals flying around, we're seeing 2v2s and 3v3s and people coming in from different angles for late, long team fights. And the Sunfire Cape is honestly better if you're keeping the game in that pace.
Right now, the blue buff will be respawning. Remember, it was stolen last time by Dignitas, so this will be the second time that they've actually stolen this buff away. It does get picked up by Skara. It's up in the top lane. We've seen Chris He recalled from Kiwi Kid. The rest of Dignitas, they've now stacked up. They're just going to face tank this tower, secure their 4th tower of the game for absolutely 0 cost.
Going back and getting it. I feel like it cost him a whole lot beforehand where he lost the double buffs and the oracles, but he got it back. He finished the turret. Mission accomplished for Dignitas. But what they have to worry about is Maple Street getting too far into the late game, because I don't necessarily think that a Nocturne, even a Nocturne and a Kennen diving straight onto a Tristana will be enough if it gets to, say, that 40-minute mark, which is why I think Dignitas might be grouped up as 5 and trying to force the issue a little bit.
Yeah, the power of that Buster Shot cannot go unaccounted for. If that Nocturne dives in before Shen arrives, just Buster Shot him away. Assuming the spell shield has not been blown, that's going to be very crucial for Crumbs to actually stick to that little Yordle.
And the great thing for Maple Street is if he wanted to knock back Nocturne, he can break the spell shield himself. He can E him and then knock him back. The main thing he needs to knock back, though, is honestly the Kennen.
Just keep the damage away, keep that stun from going down. Cutie Pie picks up his red buff. He's going to have enough gold to complete that static shiv relatively soon, and just really increasing that burst damage on hit from the auto attack in conjunction with the rest of his abilities.
It's going to help Dignitas shove the lanes like they do so in most of their victories. Graves already clears fast. Static shiv Graves clear is almost trivial at that point for Dignitas as they try to keep Velocity stuck in their base.
So in terms of the rest of the itemization right now, we do see Maple Street sitting on that red pot as well as a BF sword. Once that gets completed to the likes of an Infinity Edge or just another big BF sword related item, he's going to hit a power curve. And we see Chris, he's stacking armor. He's prioritizing that of MR.
Yeah, he's hoping to get through the Kennen and the Ryze and get onto I'm a Cutie Pie in fights. And I really want to see how Velocity makes this transition, because even though we give Dignitas a lot of flack for not necessarily finishing games, it's a bigger problem for Velocity. They've had really good opens to a lot of games this split and have very seldom been able to close. So even just being in this game against Dignitas, they got to make something work.
Evaniscus gets caught out, takes a lot of poke. That's a flash from Skara. Stand United comes out. Buster Shot knocks the damage away as they pull Patoy forward. Collateral damage comes down. That's the first kill of the engagement as they turn their attention over to NK Inc. Maple Street's doing the best he can. He should be able to pick up one. In actual fact, Chris will get the last hit there onto Kennen. Another slice and dice into Meek will close that out. That is a 3-for-1 exchange. All started from Evaniscus being caught.
And that fight was too fast for Velocity. NK Inc. died early on because Chris and NK Inc. have to go in together. That channel actually needs to be used maybe in conjunction with Renekton. As soon as you use that on Evaniscus and they didn't go in together, it allowed Dignitas to just sustain through the fight, get the targets down one at a time, and really just not have a full team fight.
Yeah, something definitely didn't work out for them. Some relatively good counterplay from Evaniscus right at the end. He got the box down, he pulled Patoy in, but it simply wasn't enough. Baron has been secured now for Dignitas, first of the game, and now that gives them a really good power position right now.
And that Baron is so crucial for Dignitas, maybe giving them the confidence to just dive straight on top of turrets, specifically with Crumbs going tank Nocturne, leading the way on these charges might be exactly what they need, because Maple Street's not at the point yet where he's too dangerous to dive under a turret. Maybe that's exactly what Dignitas needs, because that last fight could not have been much better.
Yeah, and that Zhonya's Hourglass cannot be, discounted either. It was so impactful. Kiwi Kid managing to survive Maple Street. That last auto attack, it forced Maple Street to turn away. He couldn't get a reset on his rocket jump. He couldn't, get more involved. And, even though Chris did get the kill at the end of the fight, just that extra delay, that extra couple of seconds you buy your team and your opponents when they're trying to focus you down, it can only work in your favor.
Really want to see with this Oracles on Patoy whether or not Dignitas does decide to turret dive, or if they just keep doing their triple push, because to be fair, they haven't needed to force huge team fights to get here. They needed to pick off Velocity out of position, which is surprising considering Velocity's heavily global composition. It should kind of be the other way around, so maybe Dignitas will continue doing the same.
I think the Velocity are lacking the confidence to make these big plays stick, and the problem is now if they try to make a big play, try to make an aggressive moment, it's against a team with Baron, so it's even more difficult to actually get anything successful. Maple Street, however, has been farming very well. He's only 8 behind at the 27-minute mark, and when you're defending and reacting this much, that's pretty good.
And now there's the dive by Dig. They do not hesitate.
So Echo is forced to flash away. Kid gets knocked backwards. The Buster Shot has been used by Maple Street. There's a couple ultimates blown, but they do pick up the tower. Chris was thinking about getting involved, but simply couldn't close the range that he really needed to.
I'd still say that's mission kind of accomplished for Dignitas. They wanted to get more off of that, but a turret for no deaths is still very beneficial for them. That knockback that Maple Street put onto Kiwi Kid could be a sign for things to come, and it makes Dignitas think about what happens if this game is closer. How would they actually be able to initiate on? Because that one didn't work that great.
Yeah, completely got rid of them. It was a flash from Echo as well to get away from any of that CC, so a couple of ultimates blown and cooldowns on the side of Velocity, but they did relatively well to not lose anything more. The 2 previous blue buffs have been taken away by Dignitas, so they will be aware of the timing, but it looks like Velocity want to take this one.
Dignitas doesn't want to make an unnecessary error here that grants Velocity any kind of window, because we got to see here that Dignitas Baron has about 90 seconds left, so they still have one more play they're able to make. They couldn't make that play if one person died while trying to steal a blue buff.
In terms of the itemization as well, we see where Chris is going. He's trying to get towards that Randian zone and just trying to get that movement speed debuff onto his opponents. And you were talking about how important it is to get rid of Kiwi Kid. If Kiwi Kid, Crumbs, Scar get in and amongst the front lines, just reduce their movement speed, allow the rest of Velocity to back away at a slightly quicker pace.
Chris and NK Inc. have to stick together here. They need to make Kiwi Kid and Scar feel like they don't matter, and they need to just dive through to I'm a Cutie Pie. They have a strong tank line that can actually put enough threat down onto I'm a Cutie Pie to kill him, which is rare actually in today's League of Legends game. Mainly we see these long range like double AP comps that try to burst people down. This is persistent frontline threat that can protect Maple Street if they get the right kind of team fights.
So another tower goes down. Velocity are pretty much resigning themselves to the steps of their inhibitors. Another death sentence goes up from Evelynn, and he simply hasn't been able to catch the right target really at all during the course of this matchup.
Hasn't been able to sneak through the minions, and so much of that is just the skirmishing. Plus, they got into Evaniscus' head with all those Nocturne ganks. It's like, is this hook something I really want to land? Oh wait, that just meant there's a Nocturne there. That's why I can hit them. And he's second-guessing himself on these thresh hooks.
So right now, 6 towers to 3. Dignitas are now invading. They took the previous dragon. They've got very good deep wards on the side of Velocity's jungle. Pretty much if Velocity leaves their base, Dignitas are going to be able to see that very clearly.
And it's because they've been pushed up for so long. They're just making sure they can keep control. Dignitas didn't get a huge amount done with the second half of their Baron buff, but if you take in the cumulative amount of things they got a lot of outer turrets, not there's a word for that, inner turrets, I'm going to say. Not the inhibitor turrets, but they've gotten the full cycle of 6 down, gives them a 3 turret edge on Velocity. It's solidified their map control, and it means Dignitas now has a stranglehold over the next Baron contention.
Yeah, so League of Legends by the numbers. Get the lanes in your favor, get the vision down, and then basically wait for your opponents to be out of position and make the plays. It's something that Dignitas have actually done very well on all 3 inner towers. They basically forced themselves into their position without any response or reply from Velocity.
And it's something Dignitas was doing very well during their win streak in the spring split. Dignitas still holds the longest winning streak in North American LCS right now, back from the spring split, and they were playing like this. If they don't rush things, if they don't get caught out of position, they do have ways of being able to end by just accumulating massive leads.
In addition, their composition really works into their favor as well. They're going to be able to buy all the time for Ryze and for Kennen to power up. But they've got to be a bit careful because the longer this game goes, the scarier that Shen and Twisted Fate will become.
And they are just brute forcing this turret a little bit. Look how quickly it's going down. For some reason, I felt like a Shen ult got burned there, but that was just Nocturne's spell shield getting knocked off. So that turret might go down in round 2.
We do see NK Inky split pushing on the bottom lane. He's got that Stand United available, so if an engagement were to happen, this would be the time.
And it would be forced here because they know the turret's going down. Unless Velocity concedes, they fight, and they concede.
Velocity just give this one up. There's no call to engage. Absolutely nobody's nearby. Chris, that tanky frontline, he's on the Nexus, and Velocity, they just didn't do anything.
Dignitas can't believe it right now. They're saying, okay, we'll go and take another turret right now. Specifically because NK Inc. just now went back instead of continuing to push that top turret. Surely Velocity goes in on this wave if they can get any kind of catch.
Maple Street's the one that's far forward. The hook goes out, doesn't catch on anyone. Chris down to 50% HP. He's forced to back off as well. We'll stop off at that fountain, regenerate his HP, and come back to this mid lane.
Rinse and repeat. They're going to continue going down on this turret until Velocity tries to engage on them, or they just get the turret, barely dodging that hook. Great play by QT.
Well played indeed. The quick draw, getting himself to safety. You can see the timers on the top of your screen. Dignitas realize that objectives are on their way up, and they decide to back off and position for those instead.
The last thing they want to do is actually get caught by one of those Thresh hooks and then gift a Baron to Velocity. So they got enough done in that fight that they might actually go for more outside the turrets.
Destiny was up, and in actual fact, Crumbs cancels that with Paranoia. He dives himself in. Now we can see Kiwi Kid. Zonya's Hourglass is popped with a slicing Maelstrom. Chris, the tankiest member, is the first to fall. He's got so much armor, but not enough magic resistance. Cutie Pie's going to close out. That's a double kill for him. Turns over to NK Inc. Red buff is ticking away. He should have a quick drop in 2 seconds' time. He's going to carry on diving. Cutie Pie wants this one. Feint is up. Buckshot will be able to close that one out. Inhibitor turret goes down. They're onto the inhibitor, and this has to be the game for Dignitas.
That was a great fight for Dignitas right there. They systematically have destroyed Velocity's front line. They just mow through them in team fights. They didn't care about Velocity's tank line. Dignitas accumulated that huge lead, and they crushed them in that last team fight.
And there was such good play. The moment Destiny got used, Echo was looking for vision, looking what they're doing. Crumbs did not hesitate. He cancelled that vision. He put the darkness down, and he dove onto members of Velocity.
And I called it before the game. That haircut's going to turn Dignitas' season around. Skara did the right thing by